useful, especially with the calendar and everything.
You can use Inbox with regular Gmail.
Yeah, some of it's good. I like programs like Streak too, especially as I start to develop more into the conception. I'm good at conceptualizing and then handing tasks off to other people. So I'm building a marketing company in the background as well as part of it's part of the entrepreneurial storyline that Arcane Bear is following. I guess.
Digging into that.
We'll let you guys lead us, but
so format.
We'll we've been live for like 3 seconds.
Why is my shit so loud?
Just chilling. Nobody's like watching. We're not that popular online on YouTube just yet, so don't worry about it.
If you guys share that link, I can send it out if you'd like.
Okay. Hold on, I'll give it to you just a second.
Yeah. So what we'll end up doing is this is just like a while we record type of thing. We go live, so people can watch it if they want to, but we'll wrap this audio around the interview that we have for the actual episode that airs that we pushed out for the podcast.
Perfect.
I think he's a listener. I think he knows, right?
Yeah, thank you guys. Grateful. I was grateful for having me on
there
here.
There you go, man. Blast it out. See if anybody wants to wake up early on a Saturday morning. Oh wait, what is it? What jungle are you in? Are you
the Costa Rican jungle.
Costa Rican? Okay.
Yeah, just around 3.5 hours south of the capital city in San Jose. It's quite nice. We have an extremely lush wildlife and flora section out here. So I've got all these cool plants growing. Yeah, and nowadays good internet. They're actually been rolling out fiber to parts of the country as well. So I suspect it will get even quicker as time goes on, which is a huge benefit to have nature and high speed.
Yeah.
The closest thing I've ever had to fiber is Fiber One bars. Everywhere I've lived has never had it. So disappointed in that.
One day. You can get it in the jungle, but you can't get it in San Antonio.
Yeah, it can only be hardwired. I'm on point-to-point.
Oh, okay.
So I run at 8 megabits up and down on a good day when everything's
better
nice
than a lot of other people.
Nice and sweet.
I wonder if
I'm just
sound's coming through.
You're fine.
Oh, I am? No, I'm talking about on the live stream.
Oh.
I haven't said any issues there. But I see the levels and it looks like I'm good, so we're just gonna roll with it.
I'm just sharing this live stream as well. So
live coming at you, Bitcoin podcast.
I like, but the choice was to go live right at the right time.
Yeah.
At 8 a.m. here, we decided that's when we were going. I'm just sharing the link now with the Arcane Bear Telegram channel.
Your audio D is like echoey on the live stream. It's like it's coming from two different sources.
Because it is.
All right, well, I'll just let you know.
Sounds like I'll fix it.
So a behind the scenes episode. How often do you guys try to go live? How new is the live version?
Well, it's like our 4th time doing this.
Yeah.
Probably. We started doing it every episode for like just the roundtable session.
Perfect. A great.
Probably change it like every time. So we don't have like a go-to scheme. D's the only one with lights, so me and Cello look like dark cave dwellers.
They've got these things are quite nice. This battery's dead on this one right now, but they're like $100. A portable battery. It's nice.
I've got this thing, and it's incredibly bright. It's for a light box. I got 4 of these things.
Why
Turn this on.
Jesus.
Aim it at the wall. Aim it at the wall.
Let's see here.
And not just at your face. Like if you aim it, turn it up bright and let it bounce off the wall, you get a softer light.
Probably. I have a light box. I just need to set it up. I'm gonna do some unboxing stuff here soon.
Nice.
That's at the Bitcoin Podcast Network. We're setting up as you guys watch.
I still feel like it's like too one-sided.
They're probably like, "What the hell?" All right, so What was the talking points today? Somebody wanted us to talk about Satoshi and how it's even possible to be anonymous in 2018, especially if you're spending that much time emailing and on message boards. But to me, it seems like it's be pretty easy.
Well, we had a question that an audience member asked, remember? And you guys said you all would be able to take that easily, and you never did.
We haven't talked since then.
No, yeah, we had the Andreas. I just forgot to bring it up.
What was that? Oh shit! I remember it was in the Slack. It had to do with who gets the minor fees.
What's the point of minor fees if there's a block reward?
Oh, here we go.
Yeah.
I'll read it on air. Anyway.
All right.
Let's get going.
Are we good to go?
Rock and roll.
In 10.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Bitcoin Podcast, episode number 220. I'm your first host, Marcello.
And I'm host number 2, D.
Host number 3, Dr. Corey Petty. And today,
co-host number 4, Quattro as well, right? We're just having a roundtable today. This is T.O. the Arcane Bear.
All right, welcome to the show today.
Thank you. I'm grateful for you guys having me on. I've always really enjoyed podcast segments, long form conversation. I think is really engaging, and the community needs as much of it as possible. So thank you guys for having me on.
No doubt.
Where are you coming from? Where are you recording out of?
I'm currently sitting in the jungles of Costa Rica, just on the Pacific side, one of the lushest, greenest parts of the world that I've ever seen.
Wow.
We were joking before we started here, and you being so remote and still having better internet than D lives in the middle of San Antonio.
That's right. San Antonio, get your shit together. You know what they blame it on? And I'm so close to just being very angry. They blame it on all the limestone in my area interfering with the signals of their cables.
That's an impressive story.
Yeah, the rocks is interfering with
fiber
the signal. They just blanket it all and call it internet. Doesn't matter.
The tubes. There's a problem with all the tubes from the internet.
It's absorbing the Wi-Fi signals. It's absorbing that. It's reflecting and cutting their cables. The limestone's a problem out here. Soft rock.
I don't think it's too expensive to cut through in order to bury cable.
Limestone is the real culprit to censorship these days.
Yeah, limestone's doing it.
Well, I'm glad you said like long form. I've always been curious to like ask people, are our episodes too long? Is it just right? Could it be longer? What do you think?
Is it Goldilocks?
Yeah.
Joe Rogan's podcast really thrives, I think, because of the duration and the ability for the guests and Joe Rogan's personality to, I think, really have that counter feedback situation where, often we might agree, but those moments of disagreement and coming to a conclusion together or finding a newer sentiment. And I think so many channels go for short burst snippets. Like I'm even a culprit of this. I'll write taglines, "Is Bitcoin dead?" or something like this. And we're looking for those catchier ideas because normally the attention span of the audience is quite short because they're looking for burst information, educational right off the bat. But a lot of the times people are looking for conversation that's authentic regardless of the topic. And I think the longer form content really allows for that. So the Bitcoin and blockchain niche is small right now. So, the audience is not going to be huge regardless, but as time grows, I think being able to offer those longer sentiments are extremely important so that, over time, as you guys build, it'll probably become more important because we need a place where people can just have conversations, and because I think it's more intimate too. You get, like I was listening to your podcast with Andreas, and he's such a well-spoken character. He's funny with his Walmart greeting. So to be able to listen to it for 45 minutes in the background while I'm doing other work is really nice. And I think as the niche grows, you'll find more and more of an audience in the long-form content. So,
hell yeah!
It's funny you mentioned the Joe Rogan thing. That was one of my initial desires to even do this. I've been a fan of his podcast for a long time, and we wanted that long form conversation.
We need a Jamie though. Jamie, pull that up. We need one of those.
We need a young Jamie. That would be helpful.
We do need a Jamie. Jesse and I are each other's Jamie on Just the Headers.
Yeah, what I was going to say is, like, I think it's you get past the point of people spouting off what they came to say, like, you know, it's like automatic responses when you have long form conversation, and you get into like who the person actually is, because they no longer have that like laundry list of responses to automatically come back with on various topics that are like obvious to bring up in a kind of a short form conversation. And you can't get that with a lot of other content. You can't get past the surface level person in a short form conversation or other types of mediums. So that's why I've always kind of enjoyed this, because it's a unique way to get into like who somebody is and how they view things.
Yep. I like it because I make it. So there you go. So how long you been listening to the show, Tio? I can't hear him anymore. Can you guys?
The first time I checked you guys out was about a year ago, when I first started on my channel. So, or maybe it was less than a year ago. So about 9 months ago, in the early parts of August. I'm pretty sure it was you guys. And I was like, okay, other people are doing podcasts in this space. I want to do the same thing. And I stopped listening to pretty much everything up until the last few weeks again. I'm like, okay, this is the best time to find out who's building, who's working in these slow times, and reach out and have a conversation with them. Because it's kind of, right now, there's no crazy FOMO. These are the times where we build foundations, where we network, we communicate with the people that still believe in the fundamentals and the philosophy. It's like, okay, cool. I'm gonna, I'll do some outreach. I love the podcast format. So the last time, it was almost a year in between. I don't even remember what I listened to, and then to last week with Andreas, and then again this morning. So it was a big break in between the two. But mostly because I was kept busy. But like all of a sudden we started on a run, and then that was everything for what, almost a year, when Bitcoin went from around $500 up to 20,000. Happened so quickly, that there was really nothing else to pay attention to.
Nobody could pay attention to anything else, and I'm glad that we can now. So we're in another bear market. I don't know.
Yay!
I think he just called you a builder, Cello.
I'll take it today.
Oh, whatever. It takes it when it's a good thing, but when it's not, he's like, I ain't no builder.
I'll take it. But imagine if we only podcasted when the price went up, though. That'd be kind of interesting.
Would it be? What would we talk about? Hey guys, the price went up another $100.
Yeah, here's what I'm buying this week.
Yeah.
Well, I think to kind of go back to the long form content, what people are looking for is more authentic ways to enjoy the experience. So the listening in the podcast, I think for me, I usually put it on in the background. I let it play. So the wider the conversation, the better, because the interested people are generally more connected than we think. Like, in the Arcane Bear channel, some of my first videos were on DMT or pineapples and the medicinal benefits between. Also talking about the philosophies of blockchain. So as soon as we saw a massive growth in that, I obviously pivoted to where the waves were, just like any good surfer. But as time's gone on, I've started to be like, okay, well, I want to do revamps of the videos, or like new vignette versions of talking about dimethyltryptamine or ayahuasca. And we found a lot of the people are interested in these same philosophies, because decentralization of power and of wealth is generally well connected to sustainability and personal development, especially in the entrepreneurial world. So you find all these overlapping tapestries, and that's what I've been trying to figure out how to do the best job of, is how do we weave threads between all these seemingly disconnected tapestries? Because people that are interested in gaining financial wealth are also interested in gaining physical health and wealth. That's, for me, it's been a big thing. It's like, okay, well, how do I eat healthier now and enjoy the experience on on a deeper like richness, so it's the personal development side of things, I think, is extremely important. And in this type of long form content, it gives us the ability to really, open the floodgates to a thought and then refine it back into the point of the idea, which is, wealth and richness is not just accumulated. It's a thing that's constantly experienced through individuals, and you find. So it's been a really, I think there's a lot of room for really interesting dialogue because of the philosophical, I think, conversation we're having here is that money is a communication of value, and regardless of the technology that's behind it, these are deep human sentiments. And the reason people are drawn towards things like blockchain is because it offers us, a trustless nature in money and finance, because we've seen so many problems with the government and the financial systems. And I think regardless of the technology, it's us as humans that perceive this technology to have value that gives it the value in the first place. So as an argument against gold bugs is there's no intrinsic value to anything but what we perceive it to be, and that a lot of the reasons why people enjoy decentralization at a philosophical level, I think, is because of the values that it offers them as a human, not which we see. This has been used against us in social media and stuff, but yeah, of course.
You said you talked about pineapples before you were talking about crypto. So how have you found the overlap in that tapestry?
I think you stopped listening the moment you said pineapples.
No, I listen to everything. Don't get me wrong, and I 100% agree with you. Like, value is what we make it. I mean, money is just this grand illusion, and we all play along because it makes everybody's illusion that much funner. But
I think he just wants your physical and your spirit and your emotional well-being to all be aligned, not just be rich in Bitcoin, but you're fat and unhealthy, and so there's multiple benefits to multiple categories, and he's just trying to find all the pain points.
I'll grill a pineapple in a second. Throw that shit on a steak. Probably be delicious.
No, Marcello's was hitting the nail with the hammer there. That when you think about what is wealth or what is richness, I've met a lot of people that have made a lot of money and aren't very happy. But I also have there's a few very key friends. One of them comes to mind specifically that practiced something called right livelihood, and he turned his company from $500 into a multi-billion-dollar international company by selling something that was better for you than cow milk, which was almond and soy milk at the time. I mean, the industry's run over now, just like it happens to many industries. But anyways, the point of that story was some of the entrepreneurs that I've become friends with that have become extremely successful, but not just from a monetary standpoint, but from like an intellectual standpoint, that the richness of their life in all these different fields enhanced. So they were often they were taking psychedelics, or they were using forms of sensory deprivation like vipassana, anyway. So that there's this correlating thread between some of these very successful people that I'm intrigued by as well, and also following, I guess, that same sort of abstract pattern in the growth of what I'm trying to accomplish in business as well. So I think a lot of people resonate towards that because when you don't have a whole lot and you're looking at people that have a significant amount of money, the first thing is that we would generally think to ourselves is, what would be my sustainability needs? I think a lot of people look for, I would like a home with a garden, fresh water. And I did all that with my first entrepreneurial career. I bought 2 acres of property out here. I have a freshwater well. I have my solar backup system. This country has no military. All their extra tax dollars went to funding Medicare and education. So you have a well-educated society. So there's almost no violent crime in Costa Rica whatsoever. So I went towards a group of rich ideals instead of just okay, I'm going to make as much money as possible, because I didn't think that was as important as, well, at the end of my dying breath, I want to actually be a great singer, and there's no money aside from paying for teachers and experience that will bring me that. And I don't really care how much money that's worth. It's something that I want to do, So I think people really following their passions is something that I think brings all those abstract tapestries together, because you have to be able to enjoy it, and you have to be healthy, and it's easier to obtain physical health, because then financial wealth right away. So if you aim at goals that are rich and wealthy in character, you start to open those perceptual values, which really allow you to achieve significantly higher values of financial value too, because you see that from a lot of what do you call it, motivational speakers who have done well. Gary Vee is a proponent of just go out and do this hard work. So we're trying to follow those same.
I love Gary Vee now.
Pat, right? He's
Yeah.
such a gangster.
He just tells you to stop being a bitch. Like that's all he ever says. That's all. Every time I see one of his clips, he's like, I knew I just needed to stop being a bitch. And then that's what I tell everybody. And I'm like, man, you're so right, Gary. I'm gonna go look in the mirror right now and tell myself not to be a bitch.
And like part of that, like following that same train of thought that you were speaking on earlier, I have to bring this back again because it's relevant. But I was listening to the Shooter Jennings episode of Joe Rogan, and he was talking about how a lot of the people who he knows who are, I guess, entertainers, like people in the entertainment industry, spend a good portion of their money on ridiculous things because they don't like what they're doing to make that money. So they have to try and like spend a small amount of time not working, doing incredible things to try and make up for that unenjoyment of working. And it's like this imbalance of I gain personal wealth but not like mental health or wealth, so that type of thing. And what a lot of these types of, I guess, ideals that we're all chasing here, these fibers that connect these tapestries, as you put it, is I don't know, like everyone has personal ideals and they want to do these things, but the things that like what differentiates the successful people is, in my opinion, personal responsibility, and all of these types of things that we look for, that we get excited about, are kind of like force you to look at personal responsibilities or take you outside of your box of thinking to make you look at something in a different light that also pushes personal responsibility. Because you can want all these cool things, but if you don't do the hard work, take responsibility for yourself, you're never going to get them. And in my opinion, like Bitcoin or cryptocurrency and blockchain moves the offloading of responsibility to central parties to your own, because you control all this type of stuff and you're not going to be able to do it. So you have to take, like, it reinforces the idea of personal responsibility. And it's like some of these kind of mind-altering drugs make you look at yourself and address these issues that you may have that you may never ever do if you don't get yourself outside of your own head. And things like this. So, and even like, don't be a bitch, right? Like this self-help mentality of like, stop being a bitch. Like, what are you doing that's so wrong? You're probably not taking responsibility for your own actions. That's kind of like the general, like, in my opinion, backdrop or underlying thread to any type of personal success.
Yeah, there's a deep underlying purpose in the responsibility as well, because it's, it often leads to responsibility to other people, to make sure that, we're often focusing on what we can do. And then when we find people that are good at what we aren't good at doing, it's about collaborating together and being, okay, well, I'll continue focusing and being good at what I'm doing. Because if I'm the percussive or rhythmic part of the band, everyone else does their jobs, everyone sounds good together. And I think the responsibility to oneself very quickly leads to responsibility to others, which is deeply rewarding. So for me, a big part of an excitement about things like Bitcoin and blockchain is that as an entrepreneur, we're able to operate outside of the old fiat government systems, which is something I've been incredibly fascinated by my whole life. So when the internet first showed up, when I was younger, the first things I was looking at is, well, why is all my name in capital letters on my birth certificate? And basically, I'm like, okay, so I'm sold to a corporation that says I'm a tax slave, and there's no real laws or legislations for me. And so from a very young age, going from this type of understanding to taking psychedelics, as an entrepreneur, I drove very, very far away from center to finally come back around the last few years to be like, okay, well, here's a position of responsibility to share information and entertainment in the best way that I know possible, which is that mix between all these coalescing ideas, so that you never really know what might get you caught down the rabbit holes kind of content, which is, if I'm talking, someone who's never heard of blockchain but is interested in Mimosa Hostilis clicks on the video, and then what they're referred to next is something about blockchain, is what the I guess the rabbit hole of the internet was for me. So it's like, oh, great, I'm taking up arms in Fight Club for the content, because information is so valuable, and people are more and more being given the privilege of egalitarian forms of content creation. Our ability to have an audience right now, this is all new forms of decentralization taking place in every single field. Like a cell phone nowadays, you could film like a cinema quality film on if you do it properly. So that the power coming back to the people, I think, is very noticeable in every field. So with the Arcane Bear, I wanted to dive in and be like, okay, well, I'm good at, I love talking and ranting. And so this is a place for me to share with what I'm good at, which is share that communication. And if any way it's valuable, people will enjoy it. So September last year, June, July, I started Arcane Bear. I started ranting on YouTube about ant shares. I'm like, oh, ant shares, this could be cool. I was like, because it's another form of Ethereum on it. Anyways, so we saw this huge growth, and I always kept things as wide open as possible. I would end the show with playing music every now and then, or ranting about some book or content I just read over that had nothing to do with blockchain. And I think that human aspect, like we're saying about the long form content, just comes through significantly more authentic. So although a lot of people are looking directly for blockchain information, I think the people that have found interest in what I'm doing, which is ranting about my personal opinion, is they know that regardless of I'm right or wrong, you're getting my opinion in a moment. And that's that's the best that you can hope for from to some degree. So.
Well, I remember like 100 episodes ago, we would get hate mail from people saying that we don't talk enough about Bitcoin.
So we used to ramble.
Yeah, so we
got tangents.
We kind of made an effort to stay a little bit straight and narrow on the topics as much as we'd love to stray. But I mean, our community was really outspoken. Like, we used to love your show, and now you talk about Street Fighter like all day. Like, what is going on with your show?
Yeah. Yeah, well, the reason our community needs to focus on what's more important, and that is Street Fighter combos, because they're not easy to pull off. And if you think that they are, then you should come on the show and we could debate that. But
well, yeah, I got oh, go ahead.
No, those are very important survival tactics one should have engraved in their muscle memory. It's necessity.
If you can't,
just go Eddie Gordo on everybody. It needs to be precise.
If you can't do a spinning pile driver combo, then there's a lot that you never accomplished in life. So that's what I'll throw out there.
All right, I'm gonna lob a fly ball at y'all. Y'all can probably answer this in like a minute or two. Someone wrote in. Name is Masha. Apologies if I mispronounce that, but all the way from down under Australia. Guys, love the shows, specifically just the headers, and seeing what tangents you guys go on. So I guess someone is a fan of tangents. I'm a bit confused about the Bitcoin network fees, and I hope that you can do a show to explain it. We're not. We'll just answer this question. But my confusion is, why is there a network fee when there is block reward for miners and things are decentralized? What is the fee collected being used for? Who uses the money? Who decides how it's used, or does it get burnt?
I can handle this one.
Wait, I'm gonna be that guy, Joe. You can't lean to your left shoulder because your whole face gets covered by our emblem on the show. Sounds like you're talking through our symbol.
I'm new to this news stuff, man. Sorry.
There you go.
There we go.
Reporting
live. I say, ow now, brown cow. Ow now, brown cow.
I could just do the chocolate rain when I'm just... All right, go for it.
All right, so I'll see if I can do this succinctly. There's two forms of incentivization for people to mine. We're specifically talking about the Bitcoin network right now and other things like it in terms of how they structured their incentive model for mining. And that is, one, for every block that gets introduced or added to the blockchain, the person who mines it, who finds the correct block and adds it to the blockchain, gets rewarded with a certain amount of set Bitcoin. So right now it's 12.5. In 4 years from when it turned 12.5, it'll then half to, was that 6.25? Yeah. And then 4 years after that, it'll half again. So you have this geometrically reducing amount of inflation of brand new Bitcoin into the marketplace that's rewarded to the person that gets to add the block to the end of the blockchain. So it started out, it was quite a bit of Bitcoin. Well, the price wasn't that big. So you needed quite a bit of Bitcoin to incentivize people to run hardware on their homes, spend that energy to then try and add blocks and verify the network to the blockchain. Over time, since that number slowly and slowly and slowly decreases, and the inflation rate decreases, that means that you need to, the price has to change, right? And so hopefully the price would go up as the amount of inflation decreases, because there's, purportedly more and more demand for people to get transactions into the block. And eventually that's going to be zero. So people are going to be mining the Bitcoin blockchain, and they won't get a reward, this automatic set amount of Bitcoin for adding something. So why would they be incentivized to mine? Well, the answer to that, which also answers a few things, is transaction fees. And so when you send a transaction on the Bitcoin blockchain, you have to add a small amount of money called a transaction fee to give to the miner who ends up mining the blockchain or mining that block. And so what a miner does is they sort through all of the possible transactions that are waiting to get into the blockchain. They order them typically by the fee that's tacked on to that transaction. And they include the highest fees possible and as many transactions as they can get into a single block, which then means that if they mine that block, they get all of those transaction fees, which over time end up becoming the incentivization mechanism for people to actually spend this money running hardware at their house or some mining farm and electricity to verify the network. And since over time, that inflation rate that we talked about, that set amount, diminishes, eventually the people who use the network will incentivize the people to verify the network fully, which is kind of the decentralization thing. So you're paying a fee for people to verify your transaction for them. So but the decentralization part of this is that you aren't paying a single party. You're putting money into a pool and people are playing a game to win that money. They're mining, which is essentially the equivalent of playing a massive Sudoku with their computers to win a chance to get that money. And since it's evenly distributed in terms of fairness, you never know who's going to do it. And so that's the decentralization aspect. And so you have two different ways of doing it that kind of counterbalance themselves as time goes on and the inflation rate diminishes and diminishes. Hopefully, if you have an increasing amount of users over time, the price goes up, and then you can fully incentivize the network to be run by the people who use it. Is that, they think that's a fair way of explaining those things?
Yeah, I think it's good. And to put that in perspective, guys, or people listening, is you say, oh, it doesn't really make much sense if the miners are just subsidized with miner fees. But let's say this is ubiquitous and everyone's using Bitcoin. If 1 billion people, which is 1/7 of the people on the planet right now, were using Bitcoin and they all submitted a 5-cent transaction, that's $50 million right there. So that's more than enough to subsidize miners if this is ubiquitous. If everyone's using Bitcoin, or if Bitcoin is the bottom layer attached to everything, the miners will be more than happy with just being subsidized with fees. But at that point, they'll probably be nationalized too, and weird sort of staples of society, because they'll be arbiters of the truth. So we're talking about years and years and years from now, hopefully. So
I hope that answers your question, listener.
Yep. Thanks for listening. So, miners are arbiters of the truth. That's a powerful phrase.
I put on your V for Vendetta mask on that one.
Yeah, I don't have my V for Vendetta mask on me right now.
Was that guy? What's the name of that mask?
Chevy Chase.
Guy Fawkes.
Guy Fawkes. That's it.
I was close.
Dimitri, so close.
Yeah, I was right there. I was right there. So what else, man?
We call that an alley whoops.
An alley whoops? Is that what it is?
Yeah.
Should we interview it or what?
Move to the interview.
Yeah, let's move to the interview
and
come back. So, Cello, do you think?
All right, I gave him a pretty detailed introduction, but I jacked it up. He is Andrew Yang, the Democratic presidential candidate, not the nominee because that's like 2 years away, and my brain was in the clouds. So apologies on that, but everything else is accurate. And what makes him unique is he is a political guy who not only accepts crypto in his campaign, but I think he just really gets it. And not from like a libertarian level. I mean, I think he really gets it. And he's like a proponent of the whole nine. D, you're shaking your head. What
No. Politicians, I don't think they get it.
Okay. Politicians. I'm trying to hype him up, man. I'm the Flavor Flav of the podcast.
Sorry.
I'm hyping him up.
Oh, sorry. He's the best ever, and
vote for him. Okay.
He reads the dictionary for fun. It's what are you talking about? Why are you laughing at that? No,
he's not a racist either.
Yes, I put him on the spot with that question, and he hit it out of the ballpark. Corey was so nervous he laughed uncontrollably right after I asked it.
I didn't know where you're going with it, and I was like, "What is he saying? What's he saying?" Oh, that. Okay.
Yeah. So, anyways. Here it is. For you guys watching the live stream, you don't get to hear that interview. You gotta go download it when this episode drops. So,
do we have anybody watching?
That's a great question.
I'm looking.
That was like the best live stream yet, I think.
Has anybody watched?
We have 2 watching, and I think I'm one of them.
I automatically tweet it out whenever we start it. So.
And the Slack, I guess.
Yeah. Tio, it sounds like you've been on quite a journey with both life and like just podcasting, like since you started podcasting, man.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. I've been an entrepreneur for a bunch of years, so it's been exciting to build my own personal brand version of what I wanted to do. I'm going to start building more I guess some of the pieces to it because it can grow quite quickly. So should be fun. I'm looking forward to it. We had a lot of success. I tried to grow too quickly in the way I was hiring people, and that failed me miserably. Mm-hmm. I don't like paying people unless I want to work with people that are driven to create value instead of just need value to create something. Instead, I just find it easier to work with right now.
Good luck.
No, well, so far as soon as I changed the parameters, I found out how to work with those types of people. It's just about time. It's easy. Like I'd rather work for commissions than an hourly wage because I know what I can do in my space if I work off commissions as a comparison. Like one of the first jobs I had in the marketing space, they're like, "Oh, do you want commissions or a salary?" When they told me the salary, I was like, "Oh, wow, that's pretty damn good. I'll just take the salary because I don't know how I'm going to do." But I should have known because I've done sales before that I'm quite good at it, regardless of what kind of sales it is. So I would have made over $25,000-$30,000 my first month in commissions, is in comparison with like $5,000 or $6,000. so like, oh, okay.
That's why you say both.
Yeah. Well, no. So what I realized is that type of drive to work to bring you more instead of just doing the normal, it does exist, and it exists mostly in the entrepreneurial type. But there's ways to work with people, like just because have a smaller group of entrepreneurs work together that all value back to the table and share instead. I mean, it's hard. It's still harder, obviously, than just hiring someone to do specific jobs. But I think over time it can work a little better because then you can have multiple businesses function smoothly. Like I have a beverage company here in Costa Rica that I gave I gave 30% of the company to two friends here that are very motivated and persistent. So they're helping launch the company. We'll be going national next year, and from there, then we can go into companies like Walmart. And because we're a small company, it's more likely that we'll actually get picked up. And it's a healthy beverage, so it's quite easy to sell nowadays. Anyways, the point of that is, I'm finding people that fit those characteristics of being entrepreneurs, but also like because they know the value of working for 6 months without getting paid or something like this. Most people aren't okay with that, but the people that are okay with that get excited about projects. You just have it just takes longer to find those types of people. I think it's not that it's impossible; it just takes longer.
It's such we can bring that into the roundtable. Let's kind of maybe recap a little bit of that here, and I think crypto plays a role into finding that ideology that you're looking for people to work with.
I also want to talk about a trend I've been noticing. We'll talk about that.
Let's do that real quick. I'm recording again, so we can start up.
In 10 seconds. And that was the interview with Andrew Yang, 2020. Yang. Andrew Yang, 2020. I bet you never heard a president get so candid.
Why you even gotta have a president nowadays? It doesn't make no sense.
Or a presidential candidate, sorry.
President's so weird. The idea of a president is weird.
Yeah, one guy in charge doesn't make no sense. That's some bullshit.
But is he?
That's the trend I want to talk about,
right? Like I don't know. I think people put a lot of like the president does everything, and like in reality, like gets in the office, is like I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Have you seen those side by sides of presidents before they get into office and then when they leave like their term? How like much gray hair they have and like wrinkles in their face? Like it ages them by like 20 years.
Well, I mean, when every other month you're hit with a decision like, do we
what's their pay?
Kill this many people or do we kill that many people?
What do they get? What do they get paid?
50? Is it 150 a year?
I don't know.
I think it's 145.
Why would you ever want to take that job?
The power.
I mean, we know how to make that with and not do anything for more than like an hour a week. It doesn't make any sense. There's no sense behind this. Something's wrong.
Well, it's a duty thing. It's not. It's definitely not supposed to be about the money.
Should be. It should be a duty thing.
Yeah. You can't look at it any other way, or it doesn't make sense.
The bank accounts of the previous presidents, I think, start to make a little more sense. Like, where did this money come from?
Yeah.
I'm not an American, and I'm not very good at researching whose bank account has what. But if they're getting paid that little and then end up with that much more, what type of
where did that come from?
Oh yeah,
I mean 145 is not a little bit of double McDoubles, right? I mean that's still a good chunk of change, but
no, it's not. It's not though. It's not a whole. It's not. You can make that amount of money selling yoga ball chairs on the internet every 6 months if you're good. Like you could make that much money selling Smurfs. So why the hell are you going to take on that much gray hair? You could talk about Smurfs. It doesn't. There's no logic behind any of that.
Well, I think that's the point of it all, is that there is no logic behind it. But somebody's got to do it, right? Because if everybody had the mentality like, let's go out there and sell those blue rubber bands and make $145K a year, then nothing would get done ever, and there'd be no roads, there'd be no anything. So the people you have to look at politics altruistically or logically. It doesn't make sense. Like no one would do that, right? No, especially if somebody in a position like Trump, right? Let's just talk about him. He's a billionaire, supposedly. Why would he take a job making 6 figures a year?
Power.
Yeah.
Narcissism.
Him is a different story. But just going on that vein of logic is you have to think about it. Yeah.
Should we go one by one and say our thoughts about Trump? Is that this kind of? Should we do that?
No.
I don't have enough time for this.
One word at a time. Word at a time. Like when you build a sentence.
Yeah.
Good Lord.
But I think
but before we got into this, but like we were chatting and the behind the scenes YouTube stream got a load of this, but like you were talking about like the entrepreneur mindset, which kind of ties back into this type of stuff, and when you look for a specific type of person to work with when doing whatever type of endeavor you're trying to do, it makes a huge difference in, I guess, the outcome of that, or like the enjoyability of working on that project? Can you like, and I think crypto has a lot to do with, you said it's hard to find these types of people, but when you do, it really works out. Who are these people? And because I think crypto plays a role in making it easier to find these types of people because the ideology is overlapping. Can you kind of recap that a bit?
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I think it comes back to the abstract conversation we were having about these seemingly disconnected tapestries, is that so when I was younger, it was very cliche to have seen an article come out about MDA or something like this. But nowadays, Forbes is coming out with articles around hallucinogens all the time. And I think the change of philosophy overlapping with business has been getting closer and closer. So with the advent of blockchain, I think it's done another step further, which is bring a lot of these open-minded I guess volunteerist or libertarian individuals, because some of the first Bitcoin I bought was at around $90. Like, oh, this is fantastic. I mean, I didn't think it would catch on the way it did, but as I've learned more, it makes a lot of sense. But working with individuals that are focused on just a particular set of salary, they don't really push the boundaries and risk what's necessary to, I think, create some of the, because it's kind of a battle against not a direct fight, but replacing these older decaying ecosystems is definitely going to take a lot of work, and often with necessity being the mother of all invention of an importance, like you see in Venezuela or in Turkey right now. Countries don't really generally move towards adoption until something shows them what's wrong with their current financial ecosystem. So growing and working with different people in the space as entrepreneurs, you find a lot of these values connect, because now for the first time, instead of getting paid, because we've taken payments in Bitcoin for some of the work we do in marketing and advertising, for consulting or helping with content creation, because it's what I've done my whole life. It makes sense to continue doing stuff like that. And for the first time, being able to operate in a money without using the SWIFT system, by using these decentralized, non-government created, non-forcefully, which is what fiat kind of essentially means to me, is basically it's forced into circulation and use. Like, because if you use something else, you'll generally get in trouble, or there could be
money by decree.
Yeah. Yeah, so money, and law basically means by force, because if you don't listen, what are the consequences? So to some degree, law stipulates that there's consequences for not following by what the decree was. Anyways, the point of this sentiment was that as an entrepreneur, being able to operate without using the US dollar or the Canadian dollar, which in my agree are like robbers of people because of known inflation through money printing, which is a direct like stab at people who aren't paying attention to the fact that, hey, every 2% or every year 2% inflation, but wait, over 50 years, that's 100% of my purchasing power gone. That fight or that common misunderstanding isn't noticeable to people until it's almost too late. And so for me as an entrepreneur, to be able to sidestep into building it or trying to build businesses that operate with this new financial ecosystem, as well as educate people, this was hugely inspiring. And I've been able to meet lots of people that are focused as entrepreneurs, because we realize, I think, the importance of free market values, that even though we give light to things like the Silk Road, which is going to happen anyways, it offers freedom to the people that don't know what's going wrong and aren't necessarily looking to take advantage of other people. Because the Silk Road is a very small percentage of what the use case of decentralized control was, because you technically shouldn't be able to stop. You can find out who did it, but you can't necessarily stop the transaction from taking place. And that's what we found. Like, they were able to arrest people and take down the websites because they were front end public facing, but they weren't not able in any way to stop the transactions. They were able to seize them by, again, arresting people. So the technology itself has proven censorship resistant. We are still the weakest part of the technology, is because anything that comes to pass in our failure will be because of things that we do. But I think that with all these aligning values in so many different entrepreneurial fields, especially being able to operate without using a money that just has so many negative emotions attached to it, is a very philosophically driven concept that So that's been one of the really interesting things, is finding more entrepreneurs and people that are driven by this desire to decentralize power to the billions on the planet that have been taken advantage of without them being able to pay attention almost at all. Because why should they care? They live beautiful lives, like farming and living with their family. Like that's one of the richest ways to live, you know? So I don't think that they're poor in any particular value set, but they've definitely been taken advantage of through their unknowingness. And that's our own fault, because we've allowed it as well.
And they, I think a lot of people with entrepreneurial spirit have a really innate ability to manage risk. I think it's just part of it. Like, you have to manage risk in all things that you do. And I think if you have an entrepreneurial spirit, if you can't manage risk well, don't even start. Like, don't go into trying to be an entrepreneur, trying to do your own thing. Because basically what managing risk in a nutshell is like critical thought that you project into the future, right? If I do this action, how is it going to affect these other 5 actions that I need to do later in time? And if you can't manage the risk of doing that one action and how it's going to correlate with those other things, then don't start. Just go get yourself a job and love it. Like,
isn't that what like skin in the game is all about? Kind of managing risk and.
I guess so. I haven't read that book.
Well, that was a hard stop to my point.
I haven't read that. Are you? You're frozen on my screen. My bad. And also frozen on the live stream, by the way.
Yeah, it's like speed. Like, I just don't want people to. So it's just, I'm on a loop. So you never know.
Loop with your eyes closed.
Yeah, if I want to go to the bathroom, you'd never know.
Yeah. Are we just gonna keep it going? Let's just keep it going. Nobody cares. But. I never read Skin in the Game, but it just makes sense. Like, if you're an entrepreneur, you have to be able to manage risk. And then the highest risk ever is what you just talked about, T.O., is bringing people into your circle to work with you. Is, you know, you're taking a risk because they're never going to 100% see the visions that you have, especially if you founded some ideas, something. It just never works. It's your job to communicate it to them. But if you're doing a poor job communicating it to them, your risk grows higher and higher as they're like, what am I doing here with this new thing? What is this even about?
Well, part of that is picking people that are receptive to the message you're trying to communicate. Like, if you're going to work with somebody, they need to at least be able to understand the words you're going to tell them. And if they don't get the overall vision, if they don't align with it, then getting them to like meet the expectations that you may have or trying to communicate is much more difficult. Mm-hmm. That's a part of just living. Like, you do that with everything, right? Like, you typically surround yourself with the people that can actually listen to you or capable of listening to you. And the ones that don't, you naturally move away from, because the conversations are much harder.
Yep.
And the internet has made the automation of certain tasks. It's like, okay, well, if I hire someone that's from the Western world that can do pretty much an equivalent job to someone that lives in an Asian country, they're going to charge me 10 times less. It's like, well, I know where I'm going to go to spend the money to build the same company, because unless it's really, really important to utilize this person for those skills. And in that case, I look for people that are entrepreneurs, because then I don't have to worry about trying to pay them. They know how to acquire, or they're used to the process of, okay, what I'm going through, which is you might find 6 to 9 months of no revenue before you like fly. And you can, I've done that before. In one of my first businesses, when I was transitioning from pay-per-click advertisements, which is like paying for advertisements on certain companies' websites or something like this, to doing SEO, I went 7 months without making a dime, and all of a sudden the first month it was like $1,000, and then 13, and then 20, and then 50, because the direction of a business is the majority of the work that you're going to do in the beginning is the hardest, and you're not going to get paid for that work necessarily, but it's what you can do later with all that hard work that you put in the foundation, that once it clicks, then you get paid off, then you start getting paid for the work that you had already done. And that's why I think a lot of people look like overnight successes, because people only see that singular moment of, oh, this is where the work actually paid off, instead of the months or often years and years of hard work that went into being able to have those types of skill sets to be able to bring it all together. But most people aren't ready for that 6 to 9 month period where they're not going to make anything. And they don't try to prepare themselves for, well, if I risk this much in not getting paid, what can I build myself, and can I do a lot better by doing that? But I think as we move into a more information age society, it's actually a lot easier for people to do what they love and make a living doing that. And I think in the advent of I don't know if you guys are into YouTubers at all, but there's like a Logan Paul fight with these two brothers.
Boxing. Yeah.
I know all about those yahoos.
Completely oblivious. I am.
Corey ain't got time for that.
I've been on YouTube for a while. Like, since Philip DeFranco, some of our listeners know who that is, since he was recording in his dorm room and making the decisions on air that he was going to drop out. That's how long I've been a fan of YouTube.
Yeah.
Philip DeFranco's great.
Philly DTV. I've been trying to get him on the show for years, but he's way too big time now. It's way too big. He's got a whole website designed to how you reach out to him. It's crazy. What's up, Chuck?
To your point, though, is like you started listening to us 2017. If you would have listened to us in 2015, you would have been 1 out of 20 lucky listeners listening to our episodes. Our audience back then was not profitable. I don't even know if profitable was a word, but
we didn't have profit for years. I mean, we just had incredibly low operating costs. So we're doing it for fun, building a community and an audience slowly, and now it's the monster that it is now. But it's you can't just start a podcast and have a community drop in your hat on a dime. It's going to come from somewhere. Mm-hmm. If the people who can successfully do that already had a community before they started podcasting.
Yep.
And
we didn't.
And we just slowly built ours, and luckily we did it in I would say a authentic way, so that the people who are here now are authentic people. And it's probably my favorite part of doing all of this is the people who have rallied around us and listened to us and contribute to the podcast and the Slack and the friends that I've made along the way. That's been the best part about all this.
And this is episode 220. So when you see our thumbnail, when you see what episode we're on, you know that we're not going anywhere. I think a lot of people are afraid to get invested in podcasts because I think people fizzle out after 20, 30 episodes. There's that hump that you have to get over.
Yep.
So when you started listening to us, we were probably on episode 160, 170. And you're like, oh, okay, well, these guys have hours and hours of content. I can hit play and invest into what these guys are saying without worrying about being, checking the iTunes feed and all of a sudden there's no episodes coming out.
Well, I'm excited you're going to start doing YouTube stuff. I hope you guys have me back again for another live show somewhere down the future railway line.
I think sweet unboxing of this bad boy relatively soon. We might try getting into that.
Yeah, we're expanding.
Nice. Yeah, I think it's smart to do that. I've been in sales and marketing as long as I've been studying traditional Indian rhythms. So it's one of these abstract relationships where the only the things I've done longer than that is take psychedelics and play drums. So with sales and marketing, I think the real development over the next few years starts to drastically change the way people interact with brands and companies, and that having a platform where you are creating authentically and having long form content will become ever increasing in its value, not just because of what your profits might be, but because I think money itself is literally just a communication of value. By communicating value, you're creating money essentially. So it's a very deep philosophy to be able to do roundtables, to have conversations with people, and to continue to create content. It's one of the reasons why I jumped into YouTube, and I've had a few guests on for my podcasts. Had a PhD on who was a NASA scientist who studied astral travel. He's been doing some really cool physics experiments that prove or will disprove that we're not in a simulated reality of some kind. So it's fun to be able to have this new form of media, because the old media is dying, and the only way it's good, you don't really destroy something else, you just replace it with something better. And these are definitely steps in the right direction to being better, more truthful content, because it's people sharing opinions and thoughts and truth as they have perceived it, and allowing for that to take place, I think is will do nothing but earn more and more value for itself.
Well, go ahead and plug those things, because you've been vaguely mentioning it, but I want people to be able to find it specifically. So do the rundown.
If none of you have seen my work before, you can find us Arcane Bear on YouTube, on Twitter, Arcane Bear on platforms like Steemit, which are decentralized blockchain social media platforms. You get paid Arcane Bear. Everything is Arcane Bear, so ARCANEBEAR for those of you that are wondering how that's spelt. We go over all sorts of topics. Like I said, everything from astral travel with physicists to blockchain stuff. So
that's a wide umbrella. I'm sure that's good for keeping the creative juices flowing. So go check it out, everybody. Arcane Bear. Like the things, shell out the Steam. You're on Steemit, you said, right?
Yes. Yeah, of course, you got to play with it.
This close, man. They need to just spend a little bit more time on college campuses, and then it is gonna boom. I don't know. Whoever's marketing for Steemit, hit me up. Because Facebook is garbage. Instagram will be that in about 4 years. Come on, Steemit. You're right there. You're right there. But anyways, we should plug our things, right, guys?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
I wanted to talk about a nasty trend, but you'll have to wait till the next episode.
Cliffhanger.
There you go. To be continued. ... All right, so what do we do? The Bitcoin Podcast Network. You can go to the bitcoinpodcast.network or the bitcoinpodcast.com or the ethereum-podcast.com. That'll get you to us too. Let's see. We have a lot of shows. Should I go over all the shows? I just went over all the shows on just the header, so I don't know if I want to do that again. It's like,
if you want to see what shows we do, subscribe to us and you'll get hit by them, or just go to the website and click on shows and you can see all the ones we have. And it's a wide net.
We got a new show coming out this week. It is a blockchain and law show with a CEO of SageWise, not CEO of SageWise, but she works at SageWise.
Founder.
Right?
She's the founder.
Yeah. Boss.
Titles.
Lady.
Who cares about titles?
Yeah.
She's up there on SageWise, and she's really good at law. So
that episode will be rolling out. Crypto Bully, hope you like that one. And a new Ethereum show will be hitting you guys in a week or two. We're busy people.
Yeah, man. We keep giving you guys the content, and you guys keep soaking it up, and we're happy of that we're able to give you guys, stuff to bite down on in this ever-evolving crypto ecosystem. Or I'm not allowed to capitalize blockchain anymore. Sorry, Colin. Well, that's it.
I like those guitars, man. Maybe you can make a live Bitcoin podcast theme for us.
Yeah, I play mostly music here. One sec, I'll show you.
yeah.
Oh, we're actually going to get a live theme? Oh, shit, here we go. Welcome to the Bitcoin Pod. Is it going to be coffee shop? I had the vocals.
An acoustic.
This is a Turkish oud. I don't know if you can see this thing here.
Ooh, playing this out on a Turkish oud.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's like an 11 string. I don't have the pick on me, which actually makes quite a big difference. But
Oh.
Catch us rolling deep like that down.
With a lot of tuning, she's been sitting for a bit. Always should be tuning. But anyways, I love modal music. It's significantly more perfect than Western music. Like if you happen to be a fan of math and science like myself, all it takes is a simpleton's eye to do the research into some of the mathematics behind like perfect pitch and the musical history to find how subtly you'd want to get all spiritual about it and say how divine modal music is comparison to Western music because of the perception of perfectness in the mathematics. Like we have history, like you look at something like the pyramids, right?
It's like the
And
platonic archetype type of like platonic ideals. So it's like it's mathematically ideal in
Yes.
the way they do music.
Yeah, it's
drugs.
significant. Yeah, closer to perfection if you could get there. Not that you can, but.
Can you play us out
you
a
want.
little bit more?
Yeah, play it up.
Oh, this thing, it actually sounded out of tune when I was playing it. I don't know if
Nobody's gonna know though. Only you know
Oh, no.
Now
I
we
don't-
know.
No, no.
That's enough.
Now
I
we know.
think everyone that listens can know. There's a great video you can watch by Bobby McFerrin where he teaches the pentatonic major. But
So G, you can say play the outro, and this will be it.
We are Bitcoin and
You're doing it, dude. Shut up.
it's out of tune. I don't want to play any more out of tune. It's good.
Okay.
Like each of these instruments every day need about 10 minutes of love before I turn them on.
Okay.
These are ancient things. Isn't it?
All right, you gotta be ready next time you come on the show. Then
Play the
No.
outro. Oh
We
wait.
will.
vote for Yang.
All right. Play.
Cut it there. I already cut it. Let's cut.
Thank you, gentlemen. I appreciate
You,
it.
man.
That was
Thank
good,
you.
That was
man.
fun.
How'd you find us? Like, how'd that all go down, Cello? I didn't even know how you met Jonathan. How?
Well, a lot of people write in to come on the show, and I knew when he wrote in, it was going to be something special, and he's a good conversationalist, and he's really passionate about what we did. So I try not to waste too much time going back and forth. If someone wants to come on and I think they're interesting, then I set it up real quick, and he was willing to wait a week, and
Yeah.
Sweet.
You got
I
on
gotta
the
go,
I
boys.
reached out to you guys. I figured this is the slow time of the year, and anywhere where there's more personalities where I can have a chat with, I wanna sit down and chat.
Cool.
We like that. That's fun.
Thank you
I
very
gotta
much.
go, boys. I'll see y'all later.
Gentlemen,
All
nice
right,
to meet
later.
you all. When your links are out, please send them to my way. I'll share them through the Twitter, the Telegram, and
I sure will.
put them on our
We
I'll share them on our
love that.
page as well.
Thank you, sir. Have a good
All right,
one.
thanks.
Nice, thank you, gentlemen. Ciao.
Oh shit, we're still alive.